Senator Cano. I just saw her. Where is she?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Great. I'm really happy to be in front of you today to talk about Bill 66, the Rhode Island Early Educator Investment Act, which is a bill very dear and near to my heart. This act will require the Children's Cabinet, in conjunction with the Department of Education, to develop goals and implement strategies to improve the compensation of early educators. I want to start by saying that this is the second year that I am putting this bill, and I want to thank the members and advocates for the Right from the Start campaign that have been working with me during the past 2 years for this bill. So I want to start by saying that this bill has no financial impact, which is very important for all of you to know. This bill is really a bill that is looking to put some goals together for recruitment, development, compensation, and retention of our early educators in Rhode Island. This means that our early educators need to have worthy wages, and they need to make sure that we have strategies to get to that target scale for the worthy wages that they deserve. These workers, almost all of whom are women, and many are people of color, are literally some of our kids' first teachers, yet they make less than $13 per hour, which is well below the state's median wage of about $20 per hour, and significantly less than kindergarten teachers who have an average annual salary of $65,530. We need to make early education a meaningful career pathway with professional development and growth opportunities, and that means working to raise their pay. That's why I am once again sponsoring this legislation, so we can direct the state agency that manage early childhood programs to work together through the Children's Cabinet to establish these early educators' target wage scale. Rhode Island's early educators have stepped up during COVID-19 pandemic. They have been helping the majority of our child care providers remain open and helping provide our kids with learning opportunities during these difficult times. Now is the time that we step up for them and develop a plan so that they can earn the worthy wages that they deserve. I actually want to make sure that you pay attention to some of the greeting testimony that have been submitted by the economic progress. You do have some sheets probably in front of you, and I want to particularly highlight some of the things that are very important for you to know today. Quality early care and education is needed to close gaps in education attainment. One thing that I want to make sure that you know is that high quality early child care and education requires diversity, competent and well compensated and professional supported workforce that is stable enough to build the relationships that support child development. But one thing that is important for us to also highlight is that this inadequate compensation for early education is resulting in a crisis of staff turnover, and we're losing these very valuable workers to our neighboring states because obviously they're getting more wages in our neighboring states. One thing that it is important to highlight also is that insufficient staff leads to insufficient access and harming women and their children. And one thing in particular is that in Rhode Island, there are some child care deserts that are found throughout each county and are very prominent in many low and middle income communities such as Pawtucket, Central Falls, Woonsocket, West Warwick, Bristol, and Newport. So that is important that you do also recognize. At this time, I would like to really ask you that you take in consideration this legislation. This is an investment in Rhode Island child care because when we invest in our early educators and our workforce, we actually invest in our future of our kids. So So I want to make sure that you help today, make sure that we recognize and we stand up for early educators, and then we make sure that we can pass this bill that is really a bill that develop goals and implement goals so we can get them to where they need to be. I really, this is a time where I will take questions, and I really thank you for your attention and for this important bill that I am very proud to sponsor.
Does any of the committee have any questions for Chairwoman Cano? No? Okay. Thank you, Chairwoman. Next, speaking, we have Lynette Barrett from Rhode Island Kids Count. We're just hooking up right now.
Hello, this is Leanne.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon and welcome to the committee.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking my testimony over the phone. Hold on, I got to put myself on. I got to turn the volume off because it's driving me crazy. Sorry. Sorry. I have to get rid of the echo. I am sorry. My name is Lynette Barrett, and I do early childhood policy at Rhode Island Kids Count, and we strongly support Senator Cano's bill, Senate Bill 66. This, as she explained so well, is really an important building block in order to rebuild a system that pays adequate wages to early educators in child care, early intervention, and home visiting. The bill has been heard on the House side, and there is no opposition. There's a lot of support from agencies that operate several agencies operate many of these programs, including Meeting Street and Children's Friend and other agencies like that. So this bill asks the Children's Cabinet to set goals for wages and work across the 4 departments that run these key components of the early education system, including child care, pre-K, home visiting, and early intervention. We have been working with these departments as part of the Rhode Island Moving the Needle on Compensation Task Force, and we've done a lot of work already to build common understanding about what the challenges are and what some possible solutions are. So we think this is a good step to get a statewide set of goals established and some plans which probably need to be individualized by program about how to close the gap between where current wages are and where they should be. And then we could start to roll out pilots or be ready in case there's new federal funding that would allow us to focus on wages across these departments. So as Senator Cano mentioned, almost all of the people who work in this field are women, and many are women of color. In particular, child care educators make some of the lowest wages of any working people in Rhode Island. They make about $12 an hour. But even some of the staff who work in early intervention, which is a special ed program for infants and toddlers and home visiting, almost all of them have bachelor's degrees. Many make about $14 an hour. And we know that from a survey, at least half of them are actively always looking for a better job. So it's a short-term job. Sometimes people take on the path to a better job, but we really need to have a strong workforce that stays and works with our youngest kids, particularly infants and toddlers. And we have lots of people who would love to do that. It's just the issue that they don't make enough money to pay their bills. So that sums up my testimony, and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you so much.
Do any of the committee members have any questions? No, I believe not. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
All set. Next, we have Rachel Flume from the Economic Progress Institute. Good afternoon. Hello? We can't.
Hello?
Oh, okay, now we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. Again, I'm Rachel Flum. I'm the Executive Director of the Economic Progress Institute, and we're here today in strong support of Senator Cano's bill. And also, I just want to mention that we're also supporting Senator Golden's Fair Pay Bill, Senator Oyer's Minimum Wage for Domestic Workers Bill, Senator McCaffrey's Wage Theft Bill, and Senator Calkins' bill that would increase the overtime pay threshold. We have submitted written testimony on each of those, and my colleague, Alan Krinsky, will join me later to talk about the Fair Pay Bill. But I just wanted to highlight that we think all of these bills are extremely important to support workers during this very challenging time in our history, and we urge you to move all of them forward. But to focus back on Senator Cano's Early Educator Investment Act, as a member of the Right from the Start Committee and a longtime supporter of early learning, we think it's extremely important that we help children and families by moving forward this piece of legislation. I'd like to draw your attention to three pieces in your packet today. The first is a colorful orange and red infographic that shows why this bill is important, especially for our early educators who are largely female and of multiple race and ethnicities. We also included a one-pager from the Right from the Start Coalition, which describes a proposed target wage scale that the state could consider. And then my written testimony, which attempts to really lay out some of the economic reasons why this makes sense for families in our state economy. And I'd just like to make three short points. Even the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, who we don't always agree with, makes the case that investing in childcare is the root of making sure we eliminate the achievement gap going forward. We need a competent, diverse, well-compensated professional support for our children in order for them to build the relationships so that they enter school ready to learn. As Senator Cano and Leanne have pointed out, our educators, our early educators, are some of the lowest paid in the state. And as facing a pandemic, at the same time that we're also seeing the minimum wage in our neighboring states go up, is leading to a real crisis of the workforce. We saw before the pandemic that folks were leaving the workforce in droves, but even during the pandemic, we're finding more and more there's a crisis in providers being able to keep their teachers and keep their classrooms open. We don't want our child care centers to close when families are all ready to send their children back into child care. And so we need to support those providers so that they are willing to do this work in the long term. Lastly, as Senator Cano pointed out, we have shared some maps about the child care desert. And this is really important because if families and parents are living in places where they can't easily access child care, then often a parent, and usually the mother, will drop out of the workforce. You're hearing about the she session all over the place, and certainly has been the case in Rhode Island in the past, and is the reality that we're facing now. Women often make the choice to stay home when they can't find easily accessible child care, and COVID has certainly made that significantly worse. This investment in making sure that our child care workforce is sustained and ongoing is so important to make sure that we do not worsen our state's economy over the course of coming back out of this pandemic. We urge the General Assembly to pass this bill, and we would love to work with you to make that happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel. Are there any of the members that have any questions? Being none, Rachel, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next, we have Allison Panzarella from the Rhode Island Association for Education of Young Children.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good afternoon and welcome.
Perfect. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the Senate Labor Committee. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify this afternoon in strong support of Senate Bill 66, the Rhode Island Early Educator Investment Act. My name is Allison Panzarella, and I am the coordinator of program quality at the Rhode Island Association for the Education of Young Children. a membership organization for early childhood educators that represents child care providers throughout the state. As a member organization and DHS contractor, Rhode Island AEYC has a unique pulse on the scope of this issue in Rhode Island. It's a complex issue that affects working families, but with this bill, you have the opportunity to address one of its most critical policy areas, the compensation of its workforce. The Rhode Island Early Educator Investment Act is a vital first step towards compensating early childhood educators with the worthy wages that they deserve. And I'd like to take this time to highlight some of the statistics that are in our agency's written testimony. First, early childhood educators make an average of $11.82 an hour in Rhode Island. This workforce is 98% women, and a majority of whom are women of color. These women care for Rhode Island's youngest learners during the most vulnerable years of development, yet our system leaves them financially insecure. With these wages, some of the early childhood workforce are living at poverty levels. Across all familial circumstances, 53% of the child care workforce takes advantage of at least one form of public assistance. Now, all of these stats and all of this was true before the COVID-19 pandemic, during which early childhood educators were essential workers on the front line, caring for the children of our healthcare providers, of our first responders, and other essential workers. Our response to this pandemic relied on these women more than we know, and it's time that we compensate them as such. They deserve the strategic planning that this bill will convene, and we owe it to our early childhood educators to take this critical first step. Thank you, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you. Any of the committee have any questions for Allison? No, thank you for your testimony, Allison. Next, testifying is Rick Mcauliffe from the Rhode Island Child Care Directors Association, Business Owners of Child Care, and the Rhode Island Alliance of YMCAs. Good afternoon, Rick. Are you on with us?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
Good. Yourself?
Very good. I thank you for your time. I know you have a busy agenda, and I will be very quick. My name is Rick Mcauliffe, and I represent the Rhode Island Child Care Directors Association, the business BOCA, which is Business Owners of Child Care, and I represent all the YMCAs in the state of Rhode Island. We support this bill strongly. For too long, unfortunately, we have not recognized the important role that early child educators take in terms of education and also economic development. This is two things that are obviously very important in getting our children a healthy start to their educational careers and getting them ready and prepared for kindergarten and beyond. And it's also an economic development thing. As you know, that's where people have to go to work and they have to drop their children off. This bill does not cost any money right now. It gets everyone together to talk about better ways to pay our workers. Right now, it's very difficult to keep workers in the industry for many reasons, and one is the low pay. If someone that works in early childhood education goes and gets the proper education, the proper credentials and everything else, they can easily leave a early childhood center and go get a job as a full-time kindergarten teacher or actually at a public pre-K as well. So what we need to do to be competitive is we need to make sure that these workers, and as speakers have mentioned, majority, well over 90% are women, and I can tell you the owners of the child care centers and Rhode Island child care directors are all women, 100%, and we're talking hundreds of businesses. We need to make sure that they have the proper resources in which to do this. And so I think this is a good piece of legislation to get everybody together and look at ways to make sure that we are competitive. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Rick. Any members of the committee have questions for Rick? No? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
And I believe that is all that we have on testimony for S66. Do I have a motion to hold for further study?
So moved.
Motion made by Senator Lombardi. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Sosnowski. Mr. Clerk.
Senator Burke. Senator Senator Dela Cruz?
Oh, sorry, I didn't.
Yeah.
I was on. Yes.
Okay. Senator Golden?
Aye.
Senator Lombardi? Yes. Senator Picard? Senator Picard? Senator Sosnowski?
Yes.
Chairman Chacon?
Yes. I believe Senator...
Senator President, Mr. President?
I believe Senator Dela Cruz has a problem with her phone. She just texted me. I can see if she has no video or audio. So,
Put her in.
let me see how she votes. I vote yes to hold. Okay. So, S66 will be held for further studies.